Today, I want to explain how violent video games are not bad for children and how putting a law against them would be ridiculous. Let's start off with a game called Overwatch. Some of you may have played it. It is a game that draws in a diverse crowd because of its simplicity in the animation but complex game mechanics. What we will be focusing on is the violence within the game. As you can see, there is little to no blood, and it seems to be somewhat of a child-friendly game. Many parents would probably let their kids play the game. My point is that even in a game that does not have much blood and graphic content, the idea or purpose of the game is still to shoot the enemy player until they are dead. Also, shooting other players in the head deals more damage, which is a pretty graphic concept in and of itself. But when you kill someone in a video game, it is more than obvious to you that you are not ending anyone's life. And it's not even a question. You know that person will either spawn again or continue their life. Any person who has played video games as a child will tell you that even when things were frightening or intense and you couldn't handle it as a kid, your parents would assure you that it's just fantasy, it's not real, and that was pretty much understood, especially as you got older. Now, take a game like Rainbow Six Siege. In this game, the objective is somewhat the same. You have to shoot to kill the enemy team, and headshots do more damage. But unlike Overwatch, there is blood in this game, more realistic animation, and real guns that exist in the real world. For some parents, this game is probably completely off limits in their household. The problem is, if the child plays a video game and is old enough to understand that this violence is not real and has no real-life consequences, then the child should be allowed to play it. Just because the violence is more intense and shows more than other games does not mean the idea is different. In both situations, the person playing the game can easily understand that what is happening in the game is not allowed. Many people would argue to me that we live in the most dangerous time where violence is all around us and the youth are getting more corrupted than ever. Also, kids these days obviously play more violent video games, and this reinforces people's suspicions about the negative effects of these video games. This graph makes that argument pointless. As you can see from this graph on juvenile crime by the U.S. Department of Justice, we are actually at an all-time low for juvenile crimes. By their argument's logic, video games must have done good for the kids that play them. But if a child is mature enough to understand that the game is not real, then it should be the parents' discretion instead of the government's choice as to whether they can play violent video games or not. It would be impossible to set an age to this law without excluding many children who are mature enough and just want to have fun. There's nothing worse than taking fun away from a child, especially when you act without evidence. It's not fair to them.